Are you stuck? What about unhappy? Join Alena Chapman, author, mentor, and life coach for 30-minute moments as she challenges you to get out of the doldrum and start living your life to the fullest. It's time to celebrate that life with 30-minute moments.
Welcome to 30-Minute Moments, and I am your host, Alena Chapman, and we have got a fabulous guest. But first, I want to ask you, how many women out there give their power away, right? And how many of us allow labels to define who we are? Or better yet, we don't accept who we are or love who we are. If that's the case, guys, you should be going to Facebook and putting in the URL joinsavvysisterhood.com and join Savvy Sisterhood. It's a free program, and this is the stuff that I'm giving you every month. And the cool part is you're with loving, supportive women, and they all comment, we all support each other, and it's going to get better and better and better. So there is no reason not to accept yourself. Join us. And now, I want to introduce this fabulous guest. All right. His name is Brian Cuban. Now, yes, he is the brother of the famous Mark Cuban of the Shark Tank. You did well with that. But you know what? Brian has his own story. As an attorney and an author and an addiction recovery advocate. Amazing, isn't it? His choice of poisons were very varied. He liked alcohol, cocaine, and also steroids. But this is interesting right here because you don't hear about it a lot, but I do know there's a high percentage of men that suffer with this, and this is bulimia. Bulimia. Very interesting. He recovered in 2007 from bulimia. But his book, My Triumph Over Body Dysmorphic Disorder, chronicles 27 years of this fight and eating disorder and drugs. Brian is also the author of the best-selling book, The Addicted Lawyer, Tales of the Booze, Blow, and Redemption. I love that title. It's an unflinching look back at how addiction and other mental health issues destroyed his career and life. And now he found recovery and redemption. This is cool. And Brian, I want to welcome you. Welcome.
It's great to be on the line with you.
With all of this. And I know that, and number one, I want to congratulate you. And I think it's wonderful that you're coming forward because I know that, people suffer with a lot of addiction. People suffer with a lot of, thinking their body looks fat when it's not or whatever, seeing themselves not real, not in a real way. But they don't tell people. And here you are. You're shining a light on it, which I commend you. I think that's fantastic.
Thank you.
What I want to ask, though, I guess the best way is, all these destructive behaviors didn't start all at once. You didn't wake up one morning and say, hey, I want to take cocaine and I want to do steroids and I want to do everything else. But it all came because of something. Something started this cycle. And would you explain what that is? What was it?
Sure. It was all wrapped around what is known as body dysmorphic disorder. And what body dysmorphic disorder is when someone takes a small or maybe even imagined defect in their body and exaggerates it in the perceived reflection to the point where it affects their ability to function, quote unquote, normally in life.
Okay.
And body dysmorphic disorder affects about 2% of the population, many men and women equally. It has a correlation with eating disorders, substance use, suicide, many plastic surgery, abuse, many different types of destructive behaviors. And for me, there was bullying, severe bullying in my childhood. I was an overweight child. I was bullied severely in middle school and high school, even physically assaulted, fat shaming. I was fat shamed.
Wow.
And I was already somebody who was shy and really internalized every negative thing said to me and kind of wore it like a skin-tight suit. So you can't point to any one thing. Cause and correlation are two different things. But you can point to all these different environmental factors that sort of came together to create this negative self-image and turn itself into body dysmorphic disorder. And what happened was I started cycling through all these destructive behaviors. I call it kind of a behavior wheel, instinctively looking for something to fix myself. And, of course, destructive behaviors don't fix you. But this was happening at a time where there was really no talk of mental health. There was no talk of depression. There was no talk of eating disorders, certainly not for men. And so I just bored and shame and cycled through all these destructive things. The eating disorder was first. That began in 1979 at Penn State University when I was a freshman, anorexia.
Okay.
I transitioned into bulimia later that same year, binging and purging. I began drinking heavily in my early 20s, and that translated into quote-unquote alcoholism. Alcohol use disorder would be the medical term in the late 70s and early 80s and going through my adulthood. And then in 1987, I discovered cocaine. I began using steroids. I had 2 trips to a psychiatric facility. I became suicidal and had to be in 2005.
Oh, my.
3 failed marriages, all failing in some part related to drugs and alcohol. And then finally recovery in 2007.
Okay. So with all of this, I mean, what made you say enough is enough? What made you, because now you're in recovery,
That's right.
Yeah. So what was the point where you said, okay, enough is enough. I've got to stop this?
Well, my quote-unquote rock bottom, and I hate that term because I don't think we have to hit our rock bottom to find recovery.
I don't either.
We have to hit our lowest point. My recovery tipping point occurred Easter weekend 2007 after a 2-day drug and alcohol-induced blackout in which my girlfriend at the time, who had just moved in with me, came home. She didn't know anything about my issues and found me in bed passed out with drugs and alcohol everywhere.
Wow.
And and I went back to the psychiatric hospital for the second time, and it was there waiting for intake. And I don't know why it happened at that time, but it was there waiting for intake when I realized that there wouldn't be a third trip back because I'd be dead. I realized that I was on the brink of losing my family, not losing their love, but families have limits too. They have grown tired of watching me destroy my life and destroy myself without any willingness to at least try recovery.
Right.
And so those things came together at that time, and the next day I realized that it was time. And so the next day I got honest with my therapist, who I'd been lying to, my psychiatrist. Well, why would you lie to your psychiatrist? Well, shame knows no hourly rate, right?
True.
I was ashamed. I was ashamed of my eating disorder. I was ashamed of a bunch of different things. So I was just collecting my antidepressant medication while drinking and doing cocaine. That works out well, right?
Oh, very well. Oh, my gosh.
And so they cancel, the alcohol and the antidepressants cancel each other out. So I got honest with him, and I began my journey in 12-step. Alcoholics Anonymous is the most well-known of the alcohol focused 12-step, and began my journey in recovery. And there was lots of other therapy. There was cognitive behavioral therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy. There was role-playing therapy. There was all kinds of things dealing with my childhood. And it was a slow process for recovery, and I've remained in recovery to this date since April 8, 2007.
If someone is maybe living with someone like this, or notices there are problems, what's the best thing that people can do to help someone they love?
The best thing you can do is realize, and this is the hardest thing. I just had this conversation with someone yesterday who was trying to, quote unquote, save their family.
Right.
You can't, no matter how much you love someone, if they are not ready, they are not ready.
It's like anything. If someone is, I've dealt a lot with women who've been abused, and it's the same thing. I was just telling someone that the other day, that she had stepped away from this very abusive man, and she was so happy. But then a week later, I see her in the car with him. And so she's back. And I told all her friends are upset. And I said, you know what? You're just planting seeds. You got to keep planting the seeds. And then all of a sudden, something will click and they'll be ready.
You make a good point. Look at my situation. In 2005, my brothers came in my house at the urging of a friend. I had a .45 automatic on my nightstand that I was ready to use. There were drugs and alcohol everywhere. That wasn't the moment, right? Because it wasn't until 2007 that I went into recovery. I wasn't ready. I tell family members, I tell friends, I said, look, what you can do is prepare yourself for the moment when they are ready. I can't tell you where that gray area between love, enablement, and recovery is, where that gray area is in your family, where that line is. What you can do is educate yourself. What you can do is help yourself. Get into therapy. Go to Al-Anon. Figure out how you can best support with the people who are in the position to give the best advice, okay? You have to take care of you, because you can't help someone who is ready unless you are taking care of you.
That's right.
And that's a very difficult line to draw sometimes. The person may be in the household.
Yes.
So
yes.
Am I enabling them? Do I kick them out? I can't answer that for you. Get into therapy with people who deal with these issues daily to help you come to the right answer for you.
Folks, you are listening to Brian Cuban. This is 30-Minute Moments, and I'm your host, Alena Chapman. We will be right back with this.
You're listening to 30-Minute Moments with Alena Chapman, helping you discover your true purpose on WOWO and at WOWO.com.
Welcome back to 30-Minute Moments. And guys, we are talking about addiction, and it is really powerful. This is with Brian Cuban, and of course, I'm your host, Alena Chapman. Brian, I want to talk about, you said, the gun is sitting on the end table or whatever, and what would... I understand. Everyone says, it gets hopeless. You don't know where to turn. But why wouldn't a person who's addicted think, I'm going to go for help versus looking at the gun as a solution?
Well, that presupposes that addiction is a choice and that suicidal thoughts are a choice.
Ah, good point.
And they are not. Because I also deal with clinical depression. I deal with clinical depression today. They are often intertwined, but they also exist separately. I take antidepressants daily. I see a psychiatrist once a week. And so I was dealing with clinical depression. I was dealing with drug use. I was dealing with a complete feeling of darkness and hopelessness. In my mind, in that moment, and it really was a moment, that's how fast it happens.
Yes.
I thought I was doing my family a favor. So I did not choose to feel like I was doing my family a favor, right? Who would choose that?
I see.
And so we have to be careful when we talk about addiction and understand that it's not a choice.
No, it's not.
When I did my first line of cocaine, I did not do that thinking, you know what, I'm going to get divorced 3 times, I'm going to go to a psychiatric facility twice, I'm going to become suicidal, and that's all going to be great. It's not a choice. Was the first time I did the line of choice? Of course. And people often get lost in that distinction. Yes, that was a choice. But the biological process that rewired my brain at that moment and began to rewire it into a dependence was not a choice. Suicidal thoughts are not something we just say, hey, I'm going to have a suicidal thought. If I knew it was coming, then, if you know it's coming, then yeah, you can, and you could step back from that fog, okay, but that's not the way it happens.
No, it's not. It's
suicidal fogs do not come on where we say, hey, this is coming and it's going to be great and I can avoid it. And this is where you have problems with families, too, and the guilt is incredible because families feel guilty. What could I have done? What signs could I have seen?
Oh, I know.
But you can't. There often are no signs. My family was around me. There were no. I didn't broadcast. These things happen so quickly, and the transition, at least in my case, happens so quickly. You can't be there every moment.
And do you feel like the bullying? I mean, I don't know how much you went through, but that definitely triggered the dysmorphic, or no?
Well, you have to be careful. Yeah, I mean, was it one of the possible triggers? Yes, there is a strong correlation between bullying and depression and suicide and body dysmorphic disorder and drug use. But again, causation and correlation are two different things, right?
True.
So could it be one of the triggers? Yes. Could there have been other triggers? Sure. I mean, environmental triggers are many. But yes, I have. If you ask me, is there any doubt in my mind that it was one of the triggers? Yes, I believe it was. I was bullied very severely. I was bullied severely.
Isn't that funny? And I was bullied as an adult, so I do understand how severe bullying can be.
Yeah, and a lot of people are bullied and get over it. A lot of people are bullied and do fine, but it all depends on the person. It all
does.
Depends on the psychiatric makeup of the person,
Exactly.
the personality of the person, the genetics of the person.
And like you said, it could have been many, many different things, and it was just laying latent inside of you, and it just triggered.
And there are also genetic issues. My grandmother had mental health issues. My mom had mental health issues. And so there's no way to tell whether it was any one thing. But if you ask me if each of these things could have played a part, yes.
If someone is enabling, because often a family that's feeling guilt will, and they do feel guilt. I just was talking to a man who's actually, his son died. He committed suicide. And his son was using drugs, and he was a teenager. And he just felt like he has so much guilt. And I think people have to understand that I have 3 boys. They're all different. And I work with each one the best I can, but they also have their own journey. Now, of course I don't know if one decided to do drugs, I'd do everything in my power to help them get off. But on the other hand, I don't know if I would feel guilty. Do you see what I'm saying?
Guilt is a natural byproduct of the human experience.
Yes, it is.
When someone tells me they are feeling guilty, I tell them I understand. It is natural. It's brutal. Losing a child, losing a family member who is dealing with substance use and thinking you could have done something.
It is natural.
That is a natural byproduct of the human experience.
But you need to.
That you need to feel. It's something you need to feel.
Yes, and recover from.
You don't have to go through alone.
Yeah, exactly.
That is what I tell people. The guilt is natural, but you don't have to go through alone. Get help. Talk to people.
Yes.
It is not weakness to go see a therapist. It is a sign of trying to get over, trying to recover, trying to process. That's courageous.
You're 100% correct. As long as you have to get it out into the light. And you can't be afraid, because it's in the light of getting help that you can recover. And if you remain in the dark, it's very hard. I want to talk a little bit about redemption, because you mentioned redemption.
Redemption is what I do every day in trying to help others, trying to walk into a room and tell my story and hope that at least one person will use that as the empowerment to get help or empowerment to talk to a family member about getting help. I get asked what my regrets are about my journey.
Ah, very good. Yes.
And I have no regrets about most of the journey. I have no regrets about the drug use, and not because I think it's great, because that journey has got me here talking to you.
Exactly.
Here's what I do regret: the collateral damage, the people I hurt. I cannot go back and unring that bell. What I can do is every day try to be a better person, every day try to help one person. That is how I define redemption. People
tend to want to martyrdom. You know, they go back into that, I hurt so-and-so and I hurt so-and-so, and they just carry this heavy load. But I'll tell you, you can't change it. Just like Brian says, you have to let go of it. And it's in the now. It's in the now, how you walk from this moment forward, that can change everything. And I hope everyone heard that, because that's so extremely important in any part of our life.
Absolutely. I mean, I have 3 ex-wives who I hurt. I can't go back and change that. I lied to them. Drugs and alcohol played a huge part in the failure of our relationships. I can't change that. But what I can do is use my experience, strength, and hope to hopefully empower others in relationships not to go where I went, or to begin a journey that will save their relationship, or begin a journey that will make them more healthy and at least help themselves, even if the relationship can't be saved. Because it all starts with one step forward and then the next and the next and the next.
Yep, exactly.
When I began recovery, the woman who was my girlfriend, she stuck with me. We dated for over 10 years, and during that 10 years, I had to rebuild the trust that I destroyed with her. But more importantly, I had to help myself because my recovery had to be stronger than my relationship. It had to be stronger than my family because people leave, people die, tragedy happens. My recovery had to be for me because without recovery, I would never have those things, right?
Right.
Family,
right.
relationship.
Right.
And she stood by me, and we've been married now for 1.5 years.
Oh,
so
very
not
cool.
all relationships will survive it, but it can happen. But I had to do it for me.
That's the best thing for you, to do it for yourself. You are listening to 30-Minute Moments, and I'm Alena Chapman, your host, and this is Brian Cuban. We will be right back.
This is 30-Minute Moments with Alena Chapman, helping you find your inner self every Sunday on WOWO and at WOWO.com.
Do you feel trapped, fresh out of hope? Are you living a life you don't want anymore? Break free with The Prison Effect, the latest transformation guide from your host, Alena Chapman. You can text the word BOOK to 46862 to enter to win a copy of the international bestseller. That's the word BOOK to 46862 to enter to win an autographed copy of The Prison Effect, or visit AlenaChapmanLife.com for more details.
Welcome back to 30-Minute Moments. I'm Alena Chapman. This is my favorite part of the show. This is the shift. This is why we find out, or how we find out, the aha moment, or why people are doing what they're doing now in their life. And right now, my guest is Brian Cuban. Now, Brian, it's the shift. What is your aha moment? What really pivoted you forward strongly? What was this like, enough, I got to do this?
In terms of, we talked about my aha moment in towards of moving into recovery. My aha moment in towards of advocacy was kind of an interesting moment, and kind of a moment that involves my older brother, Mark. People ask me all the time, how did that affect you, his fame and everything like that? And I point out to them, I had a drug issue. I had an eating disorder before Mark became internationally famous, so you can't say that that was a factor. But one thing I didn't have was my own identity, and that's not Mark's fault. It was mine, because we're all responsible to create our own identity.
Okay.
When Mark became internationally famous, it became so easy for me, since I didn't have my own identity, to be Mark Cuban's brother, right?
Right.
Because I could walk into nightclubs, I get free alcohol, date girls half my age, get free cocaine, this and that. So it became easy just to be that, because I didn't know who Brian was.
Wow.
And there was a moment in which I was on Twitter and I tweeted something, and I had a Mark Cuban's lawyer on this, and I really was none of those things. I did not have my own identity, and it caused Mark embarrassment.
That's hard, yeah.
And Mark emailed me and said, look, you can't put stuff out there like that because it reflects on my organization, it reflects on me. And I thought about that hard, and it was really that moment, that one moment on Twitter where I tweeted out something that embarrassed Mark and caused problems with the sponsor of the American Airlines Center, which he had an interest in. And so I thought, you know what? He's right. I need to stop being Mark Cuban's brother, and I need to be Brian Cuban. Who is Brian Cuban? Brian Cuban is someone who has always been shy. Brian Cuban is someone who never, who was someone who did not want to be in the limelight. Brian Cuban is someone who was just a shy little boy, and he's a shy person socially. And I realized that's okay. I can be Brian Cuban and be a shy person and not be a person who needs to be adulated. And adulated wasn't even based on who I was. It was based on who Mark was, right?
Exactly.
Brian Cuban never wanted to be a lawyer. I went to law school for all the wrong reasons. And so I decided at that time that it was time for me to be who Brian Cuban really is. Brian Cuban was someone who enjoyed helping others. Brian Cuban is someone who felt other people's pain. Brian Cuban is someone who had a deep empathy for the suffering of others. How could I turn that into a strength? I could turn that into a strength by helping others. I wrote my first book, and that was the beginning.
It is. It's acceptance. It's looking at yourself and saying, This is who I am. I accept this. I'm shy. What's wrong with being shy? I'm an introvert. What's wrong with that?
That's right.
I love to help people. What's wrong with that? That's a wonderful thing. And accepting each part of you. And it's quite a wonderful journey. It's a wonderful journey.
I recently took the Myers-Briggs, and I took it as part of my second book to put it in there. And
Yes.
there was a study on, and I'm a feeler, as you might imagine. Not a
So
thinker,
am
I'm
I.
a feeler.
Yeah.
Only 4% of lawyers are feelers. It's a profession of thinkers.
That's exactly right.
And that doesn't mean you can't be successful as a lawyer, as a feeler, but I was somebody who decided I would go into a profession of feelers, right? A
Right.
profession of people helping others in a different way than lawyers help others.
Of course. Well, we are very happy that you chose this life. Now, if someone wants to find you, what is the website? Where can they find you?
They can go to www.briancuban.com. That's Brian with an I. I have a blog there, and my book, The Addicted Lawyer, Tales of the Bars, Booze, Blow, and Redemption, is available on Amazon.
Perfect. And we are both speaking at something in Toronto. Do you want to tell them a little bit more about that?
Yes, I am very excited to speak at the event with you put on by Roxanne. And,
Yeah, same here.
I look forward to seeing everyone there. It's going to be a fun time. I'll be sharing my story again and be sharing how in the workplace we can better empower people to be their best.
Oh, fantastic. What we're talking about, everyone, is that in Toronto on the 22nd, yes, it's Canada, but boy, is it beautiful. If you've never been to Toronto, you need to come. It's just wonderful. But we're doing authentic leadership. It's a conference up there that an event that we're holding. It is to help people to live authentically in their leadership, whether that's in business, whether that's in life, but to bring themselves authentically there. And it was very apropos that Brian started talking about acceptance of oneself, because that's one way to be authentic. So
That's right. You cannot be an authentic leader unless you are taking care of yourself.
exactly. Everything starts with you. Brian, I thank you so much for being on the show, and I'm looking forward to meeting you in person.
I am as well. It was a true honor to be on. Have me on anytime.
Okay, I will. And this is Alena Chapman, and this was 30-Minute Moments. I hope you enjoyed it so much. And if you want to learn more, go to alenachapmanlife.com. Guys, it's all about you. It all starts with you. So wherever you are in your life, make it the first step, and then decide how you want to move forward.
This has been 30-Minute Moments featuring Alena Chapman. If you missed an episode, download it now at wowo.com.
Podcasts by Federated Media.